Hi, I'm Ryan Mahoney, Director of Corporate Communications at Salesforce, and I'm joined today by Steve Rowen, Managing Partner at RSR Research. We're going to talk a little bit about the store today. Uh, the news is full of stores are closing and malls are going under, and it's all doom and gloom. Why? Why now? What's going on?
There's a complicated answer to that. The simple one is I think a lot of people have recognized that in the media that it moves a lot of units, it grabs a lot of attention. You know, the whole bullet, bombs, and bloods will always grab your attention. The truth of the matter is, the retail world has been, or I should say the United States in particular has been over-retailed for a really long time. So there's just too many stores to begin with before you even get into what's happening online and how many of us are choosing to shop and buy the things that we need without even leaving our homes to begin with. But when you talk about the doom and gloom thing, I think that's really the wrong message to send to retailers because it's not a time of doom and gloom. It is a thinning of the herd, certainly, but stores are going to survive. People still love going to stores. We all love to shop in our own sort of weird communal little ways. And I don't think that's going to change. What's going to change is the types of retailers that are willing to rethink their stores to make those valuable for those of us who do want to leave the couch and actually come to the store. That requires a certain honesty with oneself of what it is about my store that's going to make somebody want to have an experience. And I think a lot of that has been, frankly, overlooked for a long time. Stores look an awful lot, most of them, in large part, feel an awful lot like what they felt like 40 years ago. You know, you walk in, you have this very powerful mobile device with you that enables you to know a great deal about the products before you even set foot in the door. Now you walk in, what do you have? You have shelves that are stocked, maybe, hopefully. Not a lot of technology to interact with. You have associates there that aren't necessarily the most helpful people in the world, and it's not their fault. They're underpaid, they're overworked, they're not given an appropriate amount of training. They don't have the same technology that you have at your disposal, and so therefore the balance has been really out of whack for quite some time. So I think what we're seeing with these store closings is retailers who have been unwilling to refresh their stores and return them to a place of relevancy are being thinned out. And I mean, there's a lot of big name stories that are hitting right now, specifically around mall-based retailers with some errors they've made around maybe real estate holdings and things of that nature. But I think in the larger scope, what it really comes down to is if you want your stores to still be here tomorrow, and a lot of retailers will still have stores here tomorrow, you need to give quite a bit of time and mind share to what it is that you want your stores to do better than they're doing today. And that's a very difficult conversation, but it's one that all retailers really need to be having.
So when you look at maybe some pockets of hope, some good things that are happening,
Sure.
What are some of the experiences that are working within a store? What are you seeing people try that's resonating with shoppers?
So it's piecemeal, right? I mean, we get asked quite a bit, what retailer has done this well? Who has rethought their stores in a way that is commensurate to a 2017 shopping experience? And unfortunately, again, doom and gloom isn't our thing. But no one has really sort of cracked it all the way around. So you see little pieces here and there. You see, particularly in luxury markets, you see a lot more where people have said, okay, well, we recognize that we're doing very low volume, very high touch, so we're going to put a little bit more time behind empowering our associates both with the technology they need and the training that gives them that inherent ability to have an informed conversation. So high-end buyer walks in, right? If I say, hey, can you tell me about this handbag versus this handbag, and the first thing they say is, well, let me look up, that doesn't necessarily help. There needs to be that combination. We've heard, I've been on the road for a number of weeks now going to a bunch of different user conferences, and the one thing that really has come back to me over and over again is that it's a combination of technology and training that is going to make the store a much better experience for consumers coming in off the street. So I would say one bright spot is those retailers who've invested in their workforce, not just in the typical way that we would think of putting payroll into the stores, taking some of that self-service technology out, or maybe just not leaning on that crutch to begin with, but instead investing in having an associate who is much more able to have an intelligent, informed, and community-based conversation. And that really comes down to training. In fact, in our latest store report, we haven't even published it yet, but my partner Paula Rosenblum and I, who we have co-authors on every report that we do, we were just looking through the data the other day. We asked a question this year that we've never asked before. We always ask retailers, what are the biggest problems you face? What are the biggest challenges? How do you plan to get past those? Where are you investing in the future in the next 12 to 18 months? But one thing we never specifically did was ask within the confines of the store, what are you investing into training? And not just, what does your current investment look like, but what should it be like? What's an idyllic version of how much training an associate should receive? And one of the most, for me, frankly, sort of mind-bending things that came out of it is even the best retail performers don't necessarily recognize the problem they have here. So they would say, we would ask them, when is 30 hours enough? When is it too much? When is it not enough on an annual basis? And the majority of retailers came back to us, literally, as you move down between store managers, store associates, people in the call center, things of that nature, that they would say, we think 10 hours a year is enough to invest in training a brand new store associate. So when you stop and you think about that, that's not even what are they spending money on, that's what they think is the appropriate amount. Well, I don't know about you, but I might spend 10 hours researching one product before I walk into a store. So the idea that a brand new person who has never worked in that store before is going to come in, they're going to learn the corporate culture, they're going to learn all the systems, they're going to learn all the product knowledge they need in 10 hours or less in a year, it just doesn't cut it. So to me, that's a really great starting point for a lot of retailers. If you recognize that your stores have a problem, that they're competing with, they're getting competition from these digital sources that you never would have thought possible even just a few years ago, one of the best things you can do is invest in the people that you've put into those stores to be your brand ambassadors, to communicate with consumers who have actually taken the time to come visit you. So that to me is one bright spot that has been sorely underserved, and hopefully that we start to see a little bit of changing of the tide there.
Yeah, that 10 hours is amazing, and I want to use that as a backdrop and get into some of the technologies, because 10 hours, and now you're talking about technologies that are associate driven or associate fulfilled within a store, and are technologies that retailers are trying to use to differentiate, click and collect, endless aisle, and these sorts of things. So 2 parts, what are some of the technologies that you're seeing gain traction in this reinvented store? And then are associates able to keep up with the technologies that are coming in?
Yeah, so I'll kind of reverse engineer that there. So, one of the things that really is the big takeaway from this extended conference season is that technologists are way out in front of retailers at this point. I mean, it's regardless of who you're talking to, everyone's pecking around the same thing, right? Everyone's trying to come to this one view of the consumer, and how do we track them across the different channels they come into? How do we ensure that we're providing them with a superior experience? And I think that the amount of time and effort and, quite frankly, vision that a lot of technologists have put behind this is just so much more advanced than where retailers are. They're still trying to figure out, are store sales really dropping? Am I one of these people that's going to make the headlines? Yeah. So to me, the most important thing from that is not which technologies. You might, as a retailer, you might go to a conference and say, I like that technology. It's endless aisle. It's going to help me compete with Amazon, right? Someone's going to walk into my store. They're not going to find what they're looking for. I have an associate who can help them right here and now and provide them with at least the product. It might not be the experience they were looking for, but at least it's the product, and it will prevent them from shopping online at one of my competitors. I don't necessarily know if that's the right way to go about it. What is a much more, or as a company, what we advise people do an awful lot more, is think about what you want your stores to look and feel like, and then go find the technologies that fit that, rather than starting with, that technology sounds like it's going to be a magic bullet for me, because there's no magic bullet. Right. I was in a meeting just before this, and someone asked me, straight out, they said, do you think it's that retailers should be focusing right now most on people, technology, or process? And my gut reaction was just to come out and say process. Because those other 2 things, sure, you can throw people at a problem, you can throw technology at a problem, but if you haven't necessarily thought out why it is that you're trying to redesign your store to differentiate from your competitors, you might not necessarily buy the right technology. You just might buy the one that has the most whiz-bang features for you. So to me, it's a complicated issue as far as what other technologies are going to save all stores, and I'm not trying to cop out of the answer, but it really is about what matches what you're trying to do with your brand. Are you trying to provide a really exciting experience for someone to come in and not go to your competitors to come into your place because you want to wow them with all kinds of digital displays? Well, then that might be someplace you want to look. Is it more that you want to have a CRM solution where you understand when someone walks in the door, you've given them proper incentive to download your app, and now you have sales associates that come to them and say, we know that you're an app, we know that you're one of our best customers, we know that you shop with us regularly. It's really about what it is you're trying to achieve, and then finding the technology that fits it best.
Next year, you and I are hopefully back here having this conversation again.
Yeah, I'd love to.
What's different?
Oh, what's different? Well, hopefully, one of the things that we've been trying to gauge is not just, what's the old Bob Dylan line? You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows, right? So it's very valuable in our research that we find out what it is that retailers recognize, self-identify as their problems. The question is, what are they prepared to do about it? And for me, from some of the anecdotal conversations that we have, and we talk to a lot of retailers behind closed doors, the training issue, I think, is really going to be number one. I hope it is, and from what we've been hearing from some of our clients and some of the people that we just talked to at shows like this is, there is this acknowledgement that that is a seriously broken component of the retail experience right now. So hopefully a year from now, when we come back, we won't be talking about why retailers need to recognize that their store associates aren't necessarily equipped for the job from a technology point of view or from a training point of view. Right. And I think once we sort of tackle that, then it opens up the conversation to a lot more interesting, okay, well now we can start talking about endless aisle. Now we can start talking about these things. So to me it's a cart before the horse issue. And hopefully a year from now we'll be saying, wow, remember that? Remember when that was a problem?
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, thank you very much for your
No,
time
it was my
today.
pleasure.
Really appreciate it. And to all the viewers, stay tuned for more from Salesforce Live.